This is Kira-Yoshida Station, the starting point of the Meitetsu Gamagori Line. Meitetsu is one of Japan's major private railway companies. Kira-Yoshida is located about an hour from Nagoya, main station of Meitetsu. It is also the terminus of the Nishio Line, and as you face the station building, the platform is V-shaped, with the Nishio Line on the left and the Gamagori Line on the right. It is a small facility with one automatic ticket machine and two automatic ticket gates, and there are benches behind the wall. Although it is a manned station, it is not very busy during the day. The Gamagori Line is a 17.6-kilometer, 10.9 miles long line that runs from here to Gamagori Station. There are no direct connections to other lines. To the left, after passing through the ticket gate, is Platform 3, which is used by the Nishio Line. The entire platform is curved. To the right is Platform 2, which is used by the Gamagori Line. And just before it is another ticket gate. This is a transfer gate installed in 2008, and you must pass through it to board the Gamagori Line. This ticket gate also has a unique feature, even among Meitetsu lines. IC cards cannot be used. Payment on the Gamagori Line is cash only, and there are no direct trains to the Nishio Line. Let's take a look at the history of the Gamagori Line, which has limited capital investment. The history of the Gamagori Line began with the opening of the Mikawa-Yoshida to Mikawa-Toba section in 1929. This was part of a line network planned by Mikawa Railway, headquartered in Karia, Aichi Prefecture, and the current Mikawa Line was also opened by the same company. The line extended from west of Mikawa-Yoshida Station in 1928 and continued east. The Gamagori Line was extended to Gamagori Station by 1936, but the section east of Mikawa-Toba Station was not electrified. In 1941, the Gamagori Line became part of the Mikawa Line. Meanwhile, the Nishio Line, which connects at Kira-Yoshida Station, opened a little further than Mikawa-Yoshida Station in 1915 and was extended in 1942. The Nishio Line platform at Kira-Yoshida Station is curved because the tracks were laid later to connect to the Gamagori Line. This remains the case to this day, and the Nishio Line platform is located on a curve. Meitetsu trains, with the exception of some limited express trains, have 3 doors per car, with the middle door opening to a gap between the platform and the platform. A rotating light rotates below the platform to warn passengers at all times. This is not a desirable location for a platform, but since the tracks need to connect with the Gamagori Line further ahead, it is not possible to change the tracks to make the curve less steep. There's more to come about these 3 lines. After the war, the overhead line voltage on all lines was standardized to 1,500 volts, and the Gamagori Line made great strides. In 1965, a limited express service running directly to the Nagoya Main Line was introduced, and in 1969, improvements to curves and rails increased the maximum speed to 95 kilometers per hour. These were high standards for the time, demonstrating the effort that was put into the Gamagori Line. In 1970, approval was received to double-track some of the line's facilities. However, double-tracking never materialized, and the Gamagori Line remains single-track with the exception of a few stations. Furthermore, the current maximum speed is 85 kilometers per hour, lower than 95 kilometers per hour. Meanwhile, the Mikawa Line, which connected to the line at Kira-Yoshida Station, became a target for rationalization over time. In 1990, rail buses began operating between Hekinan and Kira-Yoshida, and one-man operation was introduced. Rail buses are diesel cars designed with an emphasis on cost reduction. The aim was to reduce operating costs by ceasing electric train operations and removing electrification. Passenger numbers continued to decline after that, and although the local government compensated for the deficit, the line was ultimately abolished on April 1, 2004. Kira-Yoshida Station, which was once the junction of 3 lines, has since become a junction for the Nishio Line and Gamagori Line. Furthermore, a transfer gate was installed at Kira-Yoshida Station with the June 2008 timetable revision, and through services between the 2 lines are no longer available. I'll look at the area along the line to explore the reasons for the Gamagori Line's decline and what the future holds. Go through the transfer gate and head to the Gamagori Line platform. Opposite is Platform 1, which was once in use. The number of trains has decreased, and it is no longer possible to get on or off here. Beyond the station are the remains of the abandoned Mikawa Line. The level crossing on the other side of the platform is closed to prevent Gamagori Line trains from hitting vehicles if they go too far, and trains generally do not go that far. The return train bound for Gamagori has arrived. This train is full of interesting things to see, with its old-fashioned design, slightly mismatched fixed windows, the loud noise of the compressor, and the sound of air escaping when the emergency brake is activated. There is a ramp next to the stairs, so wheelchair users can access the platform, but there is a large gap between the platform and the train, which is not raised. This train is a Meitetsu 6000 series. These trains were introduced in 1976, and each car has 3 doors. Until then, Meitetsu mainly used cars with 2 doors, so the 6000 series helped to alleviate congestion during rush hour. With the introduction of successor trains, these trains have been moved to local lines, and some, especially the early manufactured cars, have been scrapped. The train that runs on the Gamagori Line has been modified for one-man operation for use on local lines. As it was an early manufactured train, it features fixed side windows and horizontally pulling curtains. At stations other than Kira-Yoshida and Gamagori, fares are collected on board via fare boxes with coin changers. The coin changers only accept 1,000 yen notes. Newer notes cannot be used. At intermediate stations, the front door of the lead car is for exiting and the rear door is for boarding, and the doors of the rear cars do not open. For this reason, there are displays next to the doors. This train also operates at the end of the Hiromi Line, which I introduced previously, and the interior signs are compatible with both. Kira-Yoshida and Gamagori are stations on the Gamagori Line, and Shinkani is the end station of the Hiromi Line. Destination displays are used on the Gamagori Line, and at Kira-Yoshida and Gamagori, you can see the curtains rotating. It doesn't go from one end to the other, it's a quick and easy journey. A total of 5 train sets are in operation on both lines, and the cars are rotated daily. As the 2 lines are separated by Meitetsu Nagoya Station, you can also see these cars running on the Nagoya Main Line, among other lines. And the paint job of this train set is different from the red that is commonly seen on Meitetsu lines. It is a reproduction paint job based on the paint job of the 5500 series that once operated on Meitetsu, and has been in operation since July 2024. The 5500 series debuted in 1959 as Japan's first air-conditioned car that did not require a special fare, and was retired in 2005. Although it is called a reproduction paint, it does not appear to be the same paint job that was used on the 6000 series. There are other cars with the reproduction paint job, and they are displayed in front of the transfer gate at Kira-Yoshida Station. The top train has a livery inspired by the 3400 series, nicknamed Caterpillar, which once ran on the Hiromi Line, and has been in operation since March of last year. The second from the top is a livery inspired by the 5500 series, Part 2. It has been in operation since September of last year. Below that is a livery that recreates the white stripes that were applied to some cars from the 80s and 90s to indicate that they were only for paid express trains, and has been in operation since 2022. Below that is the solid red livery that is the original 6000 series. This is not a reproduction livery. The bottom train is the livery shown earlier. Of the 5 trains, 4 have the reproduction livery. 3 trains are in operation on the Gamagori Line, and you can see the operating status for 1 week. The 6000 series, which is compatible with one-man operation, is also on the Mikawa Line. However, due to differences such as not collecting fares on board, the cars are separate. There are no carriages with original paint jobs, making it different from the Gamagori Line, for example. Gamagori Line trains run 2 per hour, even during rush hour. In the stop station guide below, the Nishio Line train lines continue from Shin-Anjo Station, but all end at Kira-Yoshida Station. Local train lines also separate at Kira-Yoshida Station, showing the current state of the Gamagori Line. Station nameplates on the Gamagori Line platforms only list the next station on the Gamagori Line, while those on the Nishio Line platforms only list the next station on the Nishio Line. The Gamagori Line only has local trains, while the Nishio Line during the day is an express line. Both lines run every 30 minutes, with Nishio Line trains arriving after Gamagori Line trains and Gamagori Line trains departing after Nishio Line trains, creating a connection. As it's a weekday during the day, there are only a few passengers on board. Departing Kira-Yoshida Station. Since there used to be 2 tracks, the carriages sway from side to side when arriving and departing. The straight old Platform 1 still remains, and the fact that the rails are not completely rusted indicates that it is still in use. Tracks from the Nishio Line join in from the right. Passenger trains do not run directly here, but the rails need to be switched every day, so they are shining. The track on the left appears to be a siding or something similar, and the standard of the track is low. As you move away from the station, the standard of the pillars supporting the overhead wires also becomes lower, indicating that you have entered a local line. Nevertheless, the bridge girders appear to have been painted in the last few years and are still nicely painted. I've arrived at Mikawa Station. During the day, trains can pass each other at this station, and also at Nishira, 4 stations away. There are quite a few stations where trains can pass each other, and if they tried hard, it would probably be possible to make trains run every 15 minutes, but there doesn't seem to be any demand for that. When Meitetsu introduced magnetic cards, the predecessors of IC cards, they also installed automatic ticket gates at stations on local lines. While station buildings were constructed at these stations, magnetic cards were not introduced on the Gamagori Line, so there is still no station building there to this day. I arrived at the next station, Nishi-Hazu Station. The kilometer posts start at Shiryu Station on the Mikawa Line. A holdover from the Mikawa Railway era, they have remained in place even after the Mikawa Line section between Hekinan and Kira-Yoshida was abolished. Due to the location of the level crossing on the premises, you must enter the station on the right side. Unlike Mikawa Toba Station, Nishi-Hazu Station does not have ticket machines, only a boarding station certificate issuing machine. Before boarding the train, you can obtain a boarding station certificate from this machine and pay at your destination station, etc. Let's exit the station. Behind a sign that says Ride and Leave, there is a large space. There is a building labeled Nishi-Hazu Station Waiting Room and a toilet. Until a few years ago, Nishi-Hazu Station had an impressive station building. It was built in 1960 and featured ticket vending machines and a waiting room inside. It is clear that there once was a ticket counter and station staff on duty. Over the 60 years since its completion, it has deteriorated and is being demolished between 2021 and 2022. Prior to its demolition, events were held there and it was apparently quite lively. After the station building was demolished, this waiting room was built in its place. As the station had become unmanned by the time the building was removed, it is a simple facility with no ticket counter or ticket machines. The waiting room itself is managed by Nishio City, which runs along the line, and there is a sign with the phone number of the relevant Nishio City department. While a sturdier construction would be more convenient for users, installing sturdy doors and walls would be costly. The procedures would also be more complicated, so it appears to have been built fairly simply. The same is true of neighboring Higashi-Hazu Station. The 2 stations have similar names and structures, and they also have similar histories. The Higashi-Hazu Station building was built in 1959, 1 year before the Nishi-Hazu Station building. It had a canopy over the tracks and was more sturdily built than the Nishi-Hazu Station building. There were illustrations drawn by local elementary school students high up on the wall, and it was a place where you could feel a connection to the community. It became increasingly dilapidated and was demolished at the same time as the Nishi-Hazu Station building. The waiting room at Higashi-Hazu Station is the same as that at Nishi-Hazu Station and is also managed by Nishio City. Events held before the demolition of the station buildings targeted both stations, and at the time, commemorative line plates were attached to the front of the carriages. Line plates are not normally displayed on the Gamagori Line, which shows the scale of the event. Demolition of the station building is also taking place at Nishiura Station, 2 stations away. Just before this station, the line enters Gamagori City from Nishio City. There used to be other municipalities along the line, but after mergers, they have been consolidated into 2 cities. This is Nishiura Station. It is one of the larger stations on the Gamagori Line, with one platform, 2 tracks, and a siding. Along with Mikawa Toba Station, this is a station where trains pass each other during the day, and the sight of trains peeking out from the other side of the mountain pass is quite picturesque. Until 2005, limited express and express trains stopped here, and some limited express and express trains only terminated at the station. It is also the gateway to nearby Nishiura Onsen, and buses are sometimes parked in front of the station. There used to be a train depot attached to the station. When the Mikawa Toba Gamagori section opened, the line was not electrified, so it was opened as a maintenance base for steam locomotives and gasoline-powered cars. At the time, there was additional track next to the siding, as well as another platform. Electrification was introduced by 1947, and the train depot was abolished. Although the facilities have been downsized, the spacious land around the station is a testament to its former prosperity. The Nishiura Station building was completed in 1949, making it older than the Nishihazu and Higashihazu station buildings. Due to its advanced age, it was demolished shortly after those other buildings in December 2022. This waiting room, which also has a restroom, was built by Gamagori City at a cost of approximately 36 million yen, about $240,000. It is more luxurious than the waiting rooms at Nishihazu and Higashi stations. To construct the waiting room, Gamagori City held a competition for students, soliciting designs from students across the country. The waiting room's pillars and beams have a double structure, and the inside of the roof is louvered to let in light that resembles sunlight filtering through the trees. Flowers are placed inside to add a touch of color. The ticket vending machines were removed when the station building was demolished, and only a boarding station certificate issuing machine remains. This waiting room is also managed by the local government, and there is a sign with Gamagori City's contact information. The Gamagori Line station buildings are being demolished and replaced with waiting rooms managed by the local government. While this is not uncommon on local lines, the background to their creation is a bit unusual. This is evident at Kodomonokuni Station, located between Nishiura and Higashihatsu. This mountainous station is a bit different from the previous stations, and there are few residential buildings around the station. Unlike other stations named after places, this station's name comes from the nearby Aichi Kodomonokuni. The station itself was relocated when Kodomonokuni opened in 1974. The platform, which could accommodate a 6-car train, is now largely unused. There are no yellow tactile paving blocks at the ends of the platform. As befits a local line with little passenger traffic, there are no barrier-free facilities, and the only access from the platform is via stairs. Where the stairs meet, there is a bicycle parking area carved into the viaduct, but despite it being a weekday afternoon, not a single bicycle is there. Until a few years ago, there was a station building next to the viaduct. Its trademark triangular roof and a wave-pattern paintwork apparently made it the closest station to Kodomonokuni. This station building was also demolished several years ago, and the remains of the roof are gradually blending into its surroundings. Unlike other stations, there is still no waiting room. And although it's hard to see because it's buried in grass, this station has space enough for another track. In 1970, Meitetsu received permission to double-track part of the Gamagori Line. This space was also secured in anticipation of future double-tracking. Looking from the road below, you can see the piers for 2 tracks. However, this facility was never put to use. To add more tracks, a platform to match the one mentioned above is needed, but preparatory work has not yet been done. What happened to the Gamagori Line, which was once expected to see huge capital investment? The answer is related to the reason for that investment. Tourism related to Mikawa Bay, which runs along the line, began to flourish in the late 1950s. And the introduction of direct express trains to the Nagoya Main Line and the opening of Aichi Kodomonokuni, after which the station is named, were all in anticipation of this leisure demand. From Aichi Kodomonokuni, you can get a panoramic view of Mikawa Bay and the Gamagori Line tracks, and this view was also used in the promotional video played at the station. Some express trains once stopped at this station. However, the Gamagori Line's status as a tourist route gradually began to waver due to the diversification of leisure activities, among other factors. Leisure facilities along the line, which Meitetsu had a hand in, were closed, and the Gamagori Line, which never had a particularly high population density along the line, was transformed into a local branch line. The maximum speed was reduced from 95 kilometers, about 59.0 miles, to 85 kilometers, about 52.8 miles, a change to reflect the line's current conditions. In 1997, the issue of the line's survival arose when Meitetsu listed it as one of the lines to be considered for closure.
At that time, the Nishio Line section between Nishio and Kira-Yoshida was also included, and it is often grouped together with the Gamagori Line as the Nishigama Line. The following year, in the interest of streamlining, one-man operation was introduced, and all intermediate stations on the Gamagori Line were made completely unmanned. Until then, there was a station attendant at Higashihazu Station, and the issue of whether the line should be closed or not was the trigger for the move to unmanned operation. The Nishio Line section between Nishio and Kira-Yoshida was also briefly operated by one-man operation, but this was reverted to a system where a conductor is on board with the June 2008 timetable revision. This timetable revision completely separated the operating routes, creating a divide between the two lines. The magnetic cards introduced on each line at that time were not introduced on the Gamagori Line, and it was also at this time that a transfer gate was opened at Kira-Yoshida Station. While magnetic cards have been replaced with IC cards, they are not accepted on the Gamagori Line, and transfer gates remain the same. Approximately half of the Nishio Line trains turn back at Nishio Station, and although the number of trains between Nishio and Kira-Yoshida has been reduced, direct trains to Meitetsu Nagoya remain, and there is one express train on weekday mornings, making it different from the Gamagori Line. In addition to the lack of magnetic or IC cards, the fact that station buildings at Higashihazu, Nishihazu, and Nishiura stations have not been rebuilt, and Kodomo-no-Kuni Station does not even have a waiting room, speaks to the current situation of the Gamagori Line, where passenger numbers are declining. The average daily passenger numbers at Kodomo-no-Kuni Station in fiscal 2024 are expected to be just 155 people, the lowest of all Meitetsu stations. The number of visitors to Kodomo-no-Kuni has also continued to decline, and in the past, the zoo and other attractions have been closed. While the station has a full-fledged steam locomotive, it is struggling to repair locomotives that have suffered boiler failures, forcing it to rely on crowdfunding, highlighting its dire situation. After Nishiura, between Katahara Station and Mikawa Station, the track crosses the road on an elevated bridge where space has been secured for double tracking. The overhead power lines are also double track, but this too was never double tracked. Gamagori Boat Racecourse Station is, as the name suggests, the closest station to Gamagori Boat Racecourse. It is said that in the past, many people using the Gamagori Line to visit boat racing tracks would use the line, and special station staff would be posted on race days. However, with the opening of Mikawa Shiotsu Station on the Tokaido Line in November 1988, the number of people using the boat racing track has dropped significantly. Mikawa Shiotsu Station is a petition-based station that was opened in response to local requests after the privatization of Japanese national railways, with an eye toward people using the boat racing track. The section up to the next station, Gamagori Station, was elevated by 2005. The rails are long rails with few joints, and the sleepers are made of concrete, making for a comfortable ride. Meitetsu's Gamagori Station has one platform and two tracks, while the Tokaido Line has two platforms and four tracks, and there are also differences in roof height and other aspects. The two stations used to share a station building, but when the line was elevated, the facilities were separated and the viaduct is now a separate structure. Following the privatization of the Japanese national railways, express trains were introduced on the Tokaido Line, making it more convenient. The Tokaido Line took a direct route from Gamagori to Nagoya, while Meitetsu took a circuitous route, making the difference between the two lines stark. The Tokaido Line fare between Gamagori and Nagoya was exactly 1,000 yen. 6 trains run per hour during the day, with the fastest special rapid train reaching Nagoya in as little as 41 minutes. All other trains generally run directly to Nagoya Station. Meitetsu, on the other hand, costs 1,430 yen to Meitetsu Nagoya. The fare is higher than the Tokaido Line not only because of the longer distance, but also because some lines on Meitetsu calculate fares by adding a surcharge to the actual distance. Only the Nagoya main line uses the actual distance as is. On other lines, the distance is multiplied by a factor of 1.15 or 1.25. There are 2 trains per hour during the day, and there are no direct trains to Nagoya. It takes about 100 minutes to get to Nagoya on the Meitetsu line, 2.5 times longer than on the Tokaido line. This makes it no match, so even though signs at Meitetsu Station say so, they also list the travel time if you use the Tokaido line. When traveling from Gamagori to Nagoya, Meitetsu is at a disadvantage in every aspect: travel time, fare, and number of trains. Gamagori Station does not have automatic ticket gates, so you must go through a manned ticket counter. A road runs parallel to the Gamagori line, so the area is not an obstacle to using a car. Meitetsu can no longer sustain itself, so Nishio City and Gamagori City have been providing financial assistance. The amount has been approximately 250 million yen, about $1.7 million per year since 2010. Gamagori City has provided approximately 100 million yen, about $667,000, and Nishio City approximately 150 million yen, about $1.0 million.
Measures are also being taken to increase passenger numbers, and the retro paint job is part of that. Bicycle rentals are also available at several stations. The Nishijama-go bicycles are free to use. Previously, you had to call a nearby store to get your key number, but now you can apply for service on your smartphone, and the key number will be displayed, making it much easier. In 2020, the support period, which was scheduled to end in March 2021, was extended by another 5 years, until March 2026. The main users are high school students, and in order to decide to attend a high school that uses the Gamagori line, it is necessary to know before enrollment that the line will continue until graduation. For this reason, a support period of just 3 years is not enough. By extending support to 5 years in the future, students' anxiety when deciding on their future path is alleviated. However, the line's annual deficit is nearly 900 million yen, about $6.0 million, which 250 million yen, about $1.7 million, in support is not enough to cover. In March of this year, the support policy for the Nishigama line from fiscal 2026 onwards was decided. The biggest change is the introduction of a deemed vertical separation system for the Gamagori line. This system reduces the burden on railway companies by having local governments cover the maintenance costs of railway facilities. The transition to deemed vertical separation is scheduled for April 2027, with current support continuing until then. The operation period after the transition will basically be 15 years, and the extent of the local government's financial burden will be determined in the future. In addition, the Nishio line section between Nishio and Kira-Yoshida will remain subject to discussions as before, and promotion of use will continue in conjunction with the Gamagori line. The scope of support is still under discussion, and Meitetsu's burden is not expected to be zero. With the ongoing labor shortage, it is unclear how long Meitetsu will be able to tolerate allocating personnel to unprofitable line sections. Replacing the 6000 series, which is 50 years old, is also a future issue, and it will not be easy as the carriages are shared with the Hiromi line's terminal section. The Gamagori line continues to face a difficult situation, but I hope that trains will be able to run for as long as possible. Thank you for watching.